Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a really different way of looking at the cosmos. It's a vision where the heavens aren't just some abstract idea, but a complex, physical structure, something we could actually start to map out.
So let's start with that question right there. It totally challenges how most of us picture the afterlife, right? Instead of some, floaty, undefined state of bliss, what if it was a real, tangible place, a specific location with its own geography and its own rules?
Well, that's the core idea behind what's called a materialist cosmology, which was proposed in early Mormon theology by Joseph Smith. It paints a picture of a universe where everything, and I mean everything, including spirit, is a type of matter. It's just described as being, well, more fine or pure. So in this way of thinking, heaven isn't some otherworldly dimension. It's a fundamental part of our world.
Okay, so if you're gonna navigate a universe like that, you're gonna need a map. And according to Smith's teachings, a map like that was discovered in a pretty unexpected place, an ancient Egyptian artifact called a hypocephalus, basically a disc they'd place under the head of a mummy.
Now, through a kind of prophetic reinterpretation, this old funerary object was seen as something else entirely, a celestial blueprint. So, for our explainer today, we're going to treat this document not just as a piece of scripture, but as our actual guide to the architecture of the heavens.
Right at the very heart of this cosmic map is a place called Kolob. You can think of it as the universe's capital city, the main hub. It's described as a star that's physically closest to God's throne, and it acts as both the spiritual and gravitational anchor for everything else. And what powers this whole cosmic system? Well, it's a substance called K of Onrush. The best way to think about it is like the energy that flows out from that central power plant, Kolob. It's described as a form of light that comes directly from God's presence and fills all of space, acting as the medium for pretty much everything, both physical and spiritual. So, here's the really crucial part. This cosmology says the universe isn't random at all. It's all governed by incredibly precise mathematical laws. The way stars orbit isn't just a cosmic accident. It's all part of this divinely organized system, almost like a literal music of the spheres that's both mathematical and, well, real. All right, so now that we have our map, let's get into the really cool stuff, the unique physics that make this cosmos tick. And these aren't just spiritual metaphors. They're described as tangible laws that actually structure reality. Way before Einstein came along with his theories of relativity, this cosmology offered a pretty similar and startling answer. Nope, not at all. In this view, time is totally dependent on where you are in the cosmos. And here's the mind-bending ratio. One single day on Kolob, just one rotation, is the same as 1,000 years here on Earth. This creates what you could call a Kolob standard time, the master clock that everything else in the universe is measured against. And this wasn't just seen as some nice poetry. Early thinkers actually used this math to try and square the 7-day creation story from Genesis with what science was discovering about geology. I mean, if a day for God is 1,000 Earth years, then suddenly the biblical timeline starts to look a lot more in line with the vast timescales of science. This very structured, organized universe also applies to the afterlife. So forget about a simple binary choice between heaven and hell. This cosmology lays out a tiered system where souls are sorted into different physical kingdoms after they die based on how they lived and what they desire. These three main kingdoms are actually named after celestial bodies. You've got the celestial, which is compared to the sun. It has its own self-luminous glory. Then there's the terrestrial, which is like the moon, shining with a reflected light. And finally, the telestial, which is like the stars, more distant and with a lesser glory. Each one is a specific physical place with a different level of light and even a different density of matter. What's really fascinating is how this stacks up against some ancient Gnostic ideas. Both systems have this tiered cosmos for the soul to climb through, but there's one huge difference. Gnosticism often talks about dissolving the self, becoming one with a divine whole. But this cosmology, it insists that your individual identity, your unique I am, sticks around forever.
So all of this brings us to the biggest question of all. What is humanity's place in this incredible cosmic architecture? Are we just along for the ride, or is there something more planned for us? This quote from a really famous sermon called the King Follett Discourse holds probably the most mind-blowing idea in this entire cosmology. It suggests that the path God once walked is the same exact path that humanity is on right now.
What this lays out is a path of eternal progression. Earth isn't the final exam, it's more like an apprenticeship, a lab. In this view, we humans are basically intelligences in training, learning the fundamental laws of the universe. And the ultimate goal isn't just to worship God, but to become like God, to actually gain the power to organize matter and create worlds of our own. And that right there just perfectly captures the core vision. The afterlife isn't about sitting on a cloud playing a harp. It's about active, endless participation in the ongoing creation of the universe. It's like this ever-expanding, perpetual motion machine of creation and growth. So when you boil it all down, this cosmology just collapses the distance between heaven and earth. It turns the night sky from this vast, empty, unknowable thing into a populated, structured, and maybe even an achievable frontier. We're not just looking at stars, we're looking at our potential, our future. And that leaves us with one last really provocative thought to chew on. If the path of growth is eternal, and the goal is just to keep learning and creating forever, does the journey ever really end? Or is the journey itself the whole point? It's a pretty big question about the very nature of infinite potential.